Hey everybody, welcome to Drive Thru Review 576. Today we're going to take a look at Haspelknecht. This is a new game in a trilogy from Thomas Spitzer, and this is published by Capstone Games, and it's sort of the coal mining trilogy. And the other two actually were already released in Europe, but they're being brought over to the United States here relatively soon. So in this game, players will be taking actions through this very interesting and different action selection mechanism, and then also sort of excavating and building their mine and like developing new technology, if you will, to get at the coal that they're going to be mining. So let's take a look at how the mechanics work, and then I will tell you what I think of it. Okay, here I've got most of the components that you can see here. First thing to note is each player will get a player board like so, and here you can see that I've laid out the cubes here that you're going to be mining and pulling out of here. Now at first you're only going to have access to this area of the mine, and then you're going to have to basically clear this off and then sort of upgrade this here with a tile, which will give you access to the Haspelknecht character, and you'll be able to start to pump water out of here and then start to get the different coal out of here. And you can also see these spots here for wood, and you can also see that up here as well. You're going to need to acquire wood to add some stability and, you know, keep the mine whole so that you can excavate everything safely. So everybody's got a board like that. You have kind of a main turn tracker board here. You can see you're going to play over 3 rounds, and in each of those rounds you have 4 seasons, so spring, summer, fall, and then winter. I'll talk about that in a second. And then you've got this like technology track up here. So this thing you can set up a variety of different ways. I've set up sort of like the basic shape. It does give you a sort of a starting layout that you can do. You can also randomize the different tiles, and there's also some different shapes and things. I haven't played with the weird shapes yet, but it does change up the game. And how this works is you can see like here I've got brown, green, blue, and yellow, and then the tiles you can probably not tell from far away, but it's like this has a brown border around it. So these are all kind of attached to this sort of purchase instructions here. And so what's going to happen is players are going to start off at one of the top tiles here, and they kind of work their way down and around and adding these different technologies and bonuses as they go through the game. But again, you can randomize all that, deal it out however you wish, and apparently change it into different shapes and things, and that'll really kind of change up kind of the progress that you make. So think of it as like a technology tree that you have to try to sort of suss out how it's dealt out, and then kind of pick your path through and give you bonuses to all your like your basic actions and bonus scoring and stuff like that. Now the last board to notice is this here, and this is actually 3 different boards, and you'll play with a certain number of these based on the number of players. So with 2 you have the main board, and then 3, and then 4 you'll add these. And so what players are going to be during the action phase, which I'll talk about when that happens, but you're going to choose one of these larger portions of a board. So you can see that has the number 6 there and the number 3 there. So you're only going to be choosing from these larger square areas here, here, and here, and here. And then what you're going to do is you're going to pick all of the discs of that color, and the different color discs are telling you what kind of actions you can do. So maybe I want to take some actions here kind of associated with excavating coal, so I would take those 4. And then Billy's turn, he wants some wood, so maybe he'll take this one. And then it'll come back to me, and then you can only ever have a total of 5 discs. So I've already taken 4. You can see here of these black ones. So I'll choose another one of these and then take one color there. But if I wanted to say maybe get some food or something, which is what yellow is associated with, I take that. But I only take the 1 because I'm at a maximum of 5. And then Billy would go, and so on. And then at the beginning of the action phase, you're going to replenish these, and then you're going to draw new tiles out of the bag. And then you're going to be able to then have a new kind of makeup. So this is a really interesting and weird abstraction in terms of how you're going to choose the actions that you're going to do on your turn. So maybe go heavy, you know, on one color. Like for example, somebody chose all yellow here, they'd be locked out at 5 there because they were already at 5 if they took all the yellows, but they'd be heavily going after food. Now this is always a 2-step process. You choose one color, everybody goes around, then they choose a color. Now in the first step, you can see there's a little 1 there with a little water icon. You're going to have to add water to your mine. I'll explain what that is, but only in that first step. If you choose from this tile or this tile here in the second step, then you don't have to add any water. Now as you take those action discs, you're going to put them in these little slots. You can see this is the first step, so I put maybe the 3 blacks I chose there, and let's pretend I took 2 browns in my second step, and those would go there. And then we're going to count up and total up the value of these discs to determine the turn order. So we can see here in the middle of this main board here the value of each of the different color discs. So I had 3 blacks, so that'd be 3 points, and then the 2 brown would be another 4 for a total of 7. And so you're going to look at the value and see what the total value is that everybody has, and you can see the yellows are worth 3. So let's say red had the lowest value, and then green had second lowest, and then these 2 guys, their order maintained. So whoever had the lowest total sort of point value of those discs will go first, and whoever had the highest value, or the most yellows typically, will go last. And we can take a look here at kind of the turn flow here. So every time you hit one of these, you're going to add pit water to your mine, which I'll show you in a minute. And then here you're going to choose the action discs, and then everybody will execute the actions, and that part can be done pretty much simultaneously. And then we're going to do another action phase and another actually doing the actions and more pit water. Then once we get over to here, you're going to be able to score some victory points for the different coal cubes that have been excavated, and then you have a payment phase here, and you can see the payment goes up in rounds 1, 2, and 3, where you need to have 2 food, and a coin, and then food and 2 coins that you have to pay, or else you're going to take a debt check. And then you have kind of a check for storage. You can store a certain amount of items from year to year, but then you can also increase that storage with different add-ons and things. And this little reminder here for summer is that when you use your farmer to produce food, you can get an additional food. And so when we go to take our actions, we're going to be placing our discs out onto these different workers. Now we just have these 3 different workers to start the game, but you will get more possibly. And so when we take and put our black discs on here, then we're going to beef up this guy's excavation abilities there, and then maybe we'll send the 2 wood here, and maybe he'll go off and he'll get some wood. And sort of the strength and magnitude of what you're going to do is going to be the amount of discs that you actually put on there. Now if you look at this fellow over here, we can actually put a yellow disc, we can actually put food or coin on him as well, and he's able to do 2 actions there as well. So you can see the different actions can be based on the number of items that you do and the color. Now you can actually, in one instance, mix the colors with this guy here, and that's when you're going to go out and start to sort of inhabit and colonize this technology tree up there, because these will all have different requirements in terms of the number of discs. So you need 2 black and 2 others here to actually get out onto that one. So you can mix if you're taking that action, development action. Now let's say that we had here these 3 discs here, and then we could start to excavate coal. Now however, like I showed you earlier, you're going to be possibly acquiring more and more water here. And so if you have 2 or more water, you can't get at the coal yet. You've got to clear the water. So for one of these, you can clear 2 water, so that would be one of those. And the other 2 would be 1, 2. You can take and collect those coal there. Now, as you start to work down, you can't get at the deeper parts of the mine until you actually build wood there. And you'll just start collecting wood. You saw from this guy here, he would have collected 2 wood. So I could have built that, and you can kind of build that down sort of preemptively. And then I can start to take more coal as we clear through that. So the black cubes can be used to clear the water and or the coal. And then obviously brown collects the wood, and there's no action to move the wood. You just move it over there when you need to. Now it is worth noting that if you do all of the same action here with your 2 workers, there can be a synergy. So let's say they all did brown, or they all did black or yellow, you'll get a bonus. So let's say this guy had 2 wood, and then this guy here had 3 wood on him. So they would get 3 plus 2 is 5, plus a bonus for the synergy, so you get a total of 6. And it works the same way with getting food or taking these excavation actions like that. Now once you excavate this, you're going to then have this upgrade tile that's available, and this gives you another worker, and it sort of improves this guy here. So here he still takes a yellow disc, a food, or a coin, but he can do this excavation up to 3 times, but it's a little bit different actually. So this guy, you can pay a food and a gold. And so what's going to happen is you're going to start with this guy's action here. You're going to be able to start stacking up and queuing up the coal here. Again, you need the wood down here, and you need to have at least less than 5 of the water here before you can start excavating. And this guy will actually pull it up and pull it out of the deeper mine here. And you can also see, as we zoom down a little bit there, you will get bonus points here at the end of the game, as well as these little icons here, which will dovetail off of some of these technology tiles there. Oops, you can see that one there like that. So as you start to expose these will give you extra bonus points on some of the technologies that you might have developed. Now, speaking of the development technologies, you can see this guy here is allowed to take that action. And again, you can mix the different color discs here, and then you'll take your player color, so let's say you're red, and let's say you spend a black and another one there, you'll put that there, and then you can see the first player to do that will get a point in that case, and then from there you can start to build out adjacent. Now you can always build in that top row without any problem, but then from there you have to start building down and adjacent to something that you've already been in. Now multiple players can take the same technology. You can see the second player will go in here, but they don't get any bonus points for that. Whereas you start to work down there, sometimes there's a cost. So the first person down here to get to this one, they'll get 2 points, second place player will get 1 point, and so on. But there's an additional sort of cost that you may have to pay if you're not adjacent to it. So let me explain that a little more clearly. So let's say white comes down here, and then so then red could come down here as well, but red's adjacent, so they don't have to pay the cost. But let's say green wanted to jump down here, and then they would have to pay a cost to the player that was in here first, and this is the cost there, so one of those items there. So you can jump around a little bit, but it's going to cost you a little bit extra. And these are going to give you a whole bunch of different things. They're going to be ways to score bonus points. You might get some of these extra storage tiles here. You can see off to the side here, this give you extra storage and more points and things like that. If we look at this fella here, it's a way to upgrade your farmhand, because remember, you only have the starting farmer that can do the development ability. Now this one, you can get a tile here, and you can place this on top of your farmhand and then sort of upgrade, so they can now do developments. You can do more developments as the game progresses more quickly. And you can also get some of these items here, and these are going to give you like extra discs that are sort of like floating discs. So like this one here, you can get this one which acts as a brown disc from this guy here. So you have an extra brown disc that you can add to sort of beef up your action. Maybe you need that extra piece of wood, or you need another brown disc to be able to develop a further technology that you can get. And also, these also come with these bonus points here, especially there at the bottom. And remember, you get these here on some of these tiles, and also for excavating on your mine. And if you get down to here, you're going to get some extra bonus points, like for this one. So that's pretty much the game. Okay, so that is Haspelknecht. Now this is an interesting game in terms of logistics. So there's a lot of logistics here. You have that initial action selection where you're choosing the different colored discs to be able to tell your farmhands and your Haspelknechts what to do in terms of that turn. So you get the black discs, you do some excavation, you get the wood, because you need the wood to do excavation later on. You need to clear out the water, you need food at the end of the round to feed everybody, and eventually you start to need the gold coins as well to kind of pay everybody. So you've got to kind of work that all in, and the turn order is going to be very important as well, because that first sort of selection of those discs is a big deal, because if you're last in the turn order, then your selection is not going to be as optimal. You're not going to be able to take that nice juicy pile of all bunch of the same color. So that's going to be interesting, but the sort of the duality, I guess, of that is that usually when you're taking the yellow discs, you're going last, but that's what you kind of need, because you need to feed people at the end of the round. And even just for one food, you can activate the Haspelknecht, and then he can, you know, excavate the mine and pull stuff up as you get to the lower end of the mine as well. So that action selection thing is really neat and interesting, but it can really bone you as well. So that's the tricky part of the game. It's also like the least thematically integrated, I would say. But the thing is, as I'm kind of like going back and forth on that, because it's really cool and interesting. It's a very different way to kind of do the like action selection, worker placement-y kind of thing. It's like you're choosing this, you know, worker that's good at excavation, and they're going to be this strong based on the number of discs that you get. So that's cool. But it's also like kind of detached from the rest of the game, which is super thematically integrated, which is, you know, you kind of visually excavate your mine. You got to manage the water water is going to be coming, you know, every couple of months during the season, and possibly based on the action disc that you select, that might add some extra water, and you've got to make sure you get wood so you can get down and dig deeper. And so you kind of visually see that, and then you kind of upgrade your farm, and you can, like you see in the walkthrough, you can get other upgraded workers and things. So that part's really cool. You can really see your coal mine and your farm really start to evolve over the course of the game. And that really ties in with the whole technology tree, which is a super interesting way to do it. I think the technology tree is certainly my favorite part of the game, because you can set it up randomly and you have to kind of sort of pick your path through there. And so if I go over here, I can do this, and then maybe I can piggyback off of Billy over there, but I'm gonna have to waste, you know, one of these valuable resources, and the resources are pretty tight. But then if I do this, I can get these gold coins from this one, which will allow me to do this other action, which I can then sort of ignore the yellow tokens for a little bit, and I can go earlier in the turn order because of that. You know, so there's some interesting things, and certainly trying to like time that is difficult, because you might want to get at a spot that gives you like bonus wood and stuff, because they're like, oh, I don't have to, you know, worry about wood now, and that's going to allow me to do a whole bunch of excavation, and you know, and then I can get extra bonus points from this thing. So like timing that path is really the game, and that's really the interesting part of it. And it's all variable, so you can set it up different ways, and so it looks like you can just do it pretty much like however you want. I mean, you could even make it so the brown ones are on top, and so you have like your end game bonuses, and you can really just play around with it. So that's a really, really interesting thing. And like, if you're really into Euros and stuff, I'd recommend it just to kind of play around with that technology track, and you're going to get a lot of replay value out of that. And then you have that sort of beginning sort of hammer in terms of the action selection discs. That's going to be the thing that I think is going to put people off. And I've seen it put people off. They don't like the game because of that, and they feel like they get kind of behind the 8 ball with it. And I can certainly see that, but I don't mind that. I don't really think it's a problem. But I've had enough people say they don't like it. So I'm like, okay, well, you're not the only one that said you didn't like it, so I'll take note of that. But yeah, it's a very interesting light game. So it plays about 90 minutes to 2 hours. I don't know what does the box say? I always need to look at the box. It says 90 minutes. I would say this goes above 90, especially as you play it with 3 and 4. I've not played it with 2, but with 3 and 4 players, you're pushing above 90 every time that I've seen, just because there's a lot to consider. The game's pretty simple. You grab the discs and you stack them on your workers, and they do the thing. They get the wood or whatever, the food, and they go. But then you start to get into the development technologies, and really, again, picking through your path is going to be like, okay, if I go here, I want to go this direction, but this other thing over here is a good direction. Is Billy going to get over there so I can jump there and piggyback on that? So that whole thing, it adds a little bit of analysis paralysis. And I wouldn't say paralysis. I would say it adds analysis, because I don't think it goes to the full paralysis side. But it does add some time to the gameplay. But I think it's worth it. You're looking at about 2 hours, I would say, even after you've played it a few times. But yeah, definitely take a look at this game. A very interesting, crunchy Euro. And I apologize a little bit to my Patreon supporters. I know this is beginning towards the top half of the votes for the last couple of months, but I had played it a while ago and just had a chance to play it again. So I was like, okay, let me play this again before I review it. So anyway, that's Haspelknecht. Thank you.